America in 2018. And here you see the map of South America. And this is Peru, which is on the west side. And I believe it's the third largest country in South America. It's full of mountain ranges that just go north and south, just like basically the Andes, but it's all divided into a lot of different, it's almost an impossible place to be able to build a road and things. It's just crazy. But the coast here, the water is very, very cold, and so that causes the coast to be very dry. Inland, probably as much as 20 or 30 miles. And then the farther east you go, the more rain you get and the more humidity, so that this area that we didn't go to along the east is part of the Amazon basin. Now, let's see here. I guess I'll click here. So here you see a map of South America again. And what I was talking about is illustrated here with a map of Peru. This brown area is all mountains, and they're very, very high, a lot of them more than 15,000 feet. Here again, you see a close-up of the map of Peru. We started our trip in Lima. I got there about 5 days early, and I met two friends from Australia who went on the trip as well. And we went all around Lima. We happened to get there the day before the inauguration of the president. So it was a lot of fanfare and flags and everything. It was really, really interesting. That president was later on deposed for fraud or something, I don't know. Then we flew to Chiclayo, and that's where we met the people from the tour. There were about 17 or 18 people on the tour. And basically we went from Chiclayo and we headed east, across the Marañón River, then went back to Trujillo and kept going back and forth like this, and then went to Huaraz and down to Lima, and then we went down to Ica and the Nazca where they have the lines, and then we drove to Cusco and then took the train to Machu Picchu. And then I have some pictures later. My husband, Flammarion, arrived in Cusco after our trip, and he and I took a train that goes down to Lake Titicaca. It's an 8-hour train ride. It's spectacular. It's kind of expensive, but it's really, really worth it. And then we flew back to Lima. So here's the flag of Peru. And this is a view of Lima. This hotel here on the left is the old, elegant hotel where a lot of movie stars stayed back in the 30s and 40s. It went into disrepair, but it's being brought back, and supposedly they have the best pisco sour in all of Peru. We stayed there one night. So leaving, we flew to Chiclayo. So leaving Chiclayo, we headed east to the gravesite, the Royal Tombs of Sipan. It's a Moche Indian site, and this was the burial site of the Lord of Sipan. And it was excavated only in 1987. Some American, I think, and his wife were there, and they were looking at different sites, and they discovered that people had been starting to raid this site, and because certain items are showing up on the market, so they went and there's a museum there, and I thought this was interesting with all the vegetable products that they have on display. And here's where the Lord of Sipan was buried. So they got all the grave robbers out in time to save a large amount of treasures. Okay, so heading east, going towards the Andes, but not there yet. We're in kind of a dry forest area. And I was looking at possible names of tillandsias. This could be Tillandsia olmosana. And this is a West Peruvian screech owl, which was in that area. We went to the Chapari Ecological Reserve, which is east of Chiclayo. This is the the white-winged guan, which was almost extinct, and through a program, they've been able to bring it back. Kind of looks like a thin turkey, and it has white wing, white feathers underneath the wing. And also in this reserve, they're taking care of the spectacled bear. You see it up there in the mango tree, and they have several of them there. The spectacled bear for years and years and years has been used in circuses in South America and was starting to go extinct. The interesting thing about them, as far as we're concerned, is that one of their favorite foods are bromeliads. And these are, I think, the smallest bear in the world. They're still big, but they're smaller than others. This is a Pacific parrotlet that was in the area. And I believe that this is a parasitic plant that's blooming on this tree. I tried to find a name, but I couldn't. These are Peruvian desert foxes, which also live in that preserve. And a tillandsia, but I don't know what species it is. I tried to find the name of this flower, but I couldn't either. It's a spectacular flower. The flowers are about 2.5, 3 inches across. So this is still the foothills of the Andes, and it's still dry there. And I believe that this is a Neoremondia arequipensis. Here's a tree that's loaded with tillandsias. One of our stops. These two folks are the Australians. This is Kim and Catherine. They're from Perth. And there was one lady from Germany, and the rest of the people were, here's Guillermo, who does tours in South America and also in South Africa and Madagascar. The rest of the people were American. This is Deuteraconia longipetala, which goes all the way from Peru down into Argentina. And there's a form that I have that I got at the Huntington that is all white. It's beautiful. I also have the green form. This is an interesting plant because it sends up an inflorescence, a stalk, and it blooms. The flowers are thin, and they're about 3/4 of an inch long. They're yellow or yellow-green, and you should never cut off that stalk because it continues to bloom year after year on the same stalk, even though the flowers dry up and it looks like it's dead, but it reblooms. Mine is blooming right now. So, and I think it's the 4th year that it's been blooming on that stalk. So these larger headed deuteraconias are all like that. The small ones that used to be called a bromatilla are not like that. They bloom right from the center mostly, like Lawrenceana and brevifolia. Here's Tillandsia hilde, which is really a spectacular plant. But as you can see, it grows in a dry region that gets summer rain. I think they probably only get about 15 or 20 inches of rain in this particular area. So here's a bromeliad at the market. And these are tamarillos or tree tomatoes, very, very common in Peru and Ecuador, and they even make a drink out of them besides using them as a vegetable. They also make them. They also use them for to mix with chili to make a sauce out of them. I don't know what tillandsia this is, or yeah, I guess it's a tillandsia, but it's got quite a spectacular inflorescence. Does anybody have an idea?
I think it's a form of latifolia.
Very pretty with the orange. Latifolia goes all the way up to Mexico, right? right, Barry?
Yes, it's a super long range. And then you have the little tiny ones on the coast, the Nana. But there's
Uh-huh.
you get the different species as you go from west to east.
I
And
see.
yes, you're right. They go all the way up to the north.
And whenever you have a species that has a large range like that, you're going to have a lot of variations. What you might have thin leaves to broad leaves, and the different petal formations of their inflorescence, all different things. But basically, they're the same species, possibly different forms, but same species. This, I think, is a Certanthus, but I'm not totally sure. It's a bulb. And I'm not sure what this is, but it's very similar to the plants in the guava family. I don't know if it's some kind of a wild Psidium, I think they're called. And this is a peperomia. You see the mature one in flower. Peperomia blooms have a lot to be desired, leave to be desired. And then they're just nothing. And then on this one here is an immature one so far, hasn't bloomed. Growing right in the crack of the rock. And this, I think, is some kind of a Rhipsalis, which is a cactus, an epiphytic cactus. And you find them mostly in Brazil, but in other areas of South America too.
It looks like it has spines. What are those?
Yeah, 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 it does, doesn't it? So I'm not sure if it is a Rhipsalis or not, but that was just a guess. And bougainvillea is native to Peru, and it's also other types are native to Brazil, to the northeastern part of Brazil in the interior. This is a Melocactus, Bellavistensis. In the interesting thing about Melocacti is that this, I just forgot what it's called. Once this starts growing, the body of the plant does not grow any longer, and the cephalium. So the cephalium can grow quite tall. These probably have reached their maximum, or maybe they might go. And then eventually they'll die after 30 years or so. The blooming, it's a blooming structure, and all the flowers will come around in a corolla here. And their seeds, here you see some seeds, are pink, and there are other varieties in Brazil that have pale pink and white seed pods. And back here you see an Opuntia that I don't know the species. They're all over the Americas, different species. Here you see a cliff with a lot of different bromeliads. Up here is a blooming one, and I don't know what that is, but here's another one, quite spectacular. This cliff was probably 500 feet. Goes down into a river, and it looks
Are
like
those
sandstone.
are those Alcantarias or Tillandsias?
Yeah, I don't know. Are Alcantarias found in Peru as well?
I don't know.
Yeah,
Mostly Brazil, isn't it?
yeah, I thought so. Here you see a close-up of that plant in flower. Here's another one.
It's
There
not
were,
Tillandsia fraseri, is it?
I lost the ability to see the show.
oh, that's too bad.
I'll just mute myself.
There were also orchids and cacti and some succulents in this area as well. This is called Gokta Waterfall. It was known by the local people, you know, for hundreds, thousands of years, I guess, and even by the people that that were not indigenous but mestizo, part European and part Native American that had settled there. But there were no roads until late in the last century, in the 20th century. And amazingly, this was just discovered by Europeans who had not been in the area just in the 1970s, I believe. And it was measured at 2,530 feet. The whole thing here, just like Yosemite Falls has a upper and a middle and a lower. So this does too. And it's the world's 5th tallest waterfall. Look at this interesting tillandsia, how the inflorescence goes way up here. And here's another branch of it. I have no idea what it is.
Not to be repetitious, but I'm pretty sure it's another form of latifolia.
Uh-huh. A procumbent form, huh?
Yes.
Okay, this is a passion flower. No, I'm not sure about that. This might be hibiscus. Sorry.
Yeah.
I think it's in the hibiscus family, yeah.
Yeah.
We did see some passion flowers, though. Okay, so this is typical of the areas that you go through in the west central part of Peru. So before you get to the high Andes, you have these mountain ranges that are impressive in their own right, going up to 4,000 and 5,000 feet. And so the highways, a lot of the highways of Peru, they don't have good roads that go all the way north to south. So you have to go inland to the city you want to go to and then come back to the coast, drive several miles south or north and go inland again because of the mountain ranges to get to the next town you want to go to. Little by little they're building them, but it's rough. Look at this spider eating this fly. This I don't know what it is either, except that it's a vine. This is one of the towns in that area. It's typical. You see this in all over Latin America, where people will build a building and it takes a long time to get it done because they're raising the funds as they're building it. And then eventually they paint in very bright colors and it looks really nice. Motorcycles all over the place in Peru, as well as these little, I forgot what they call them now, but these little tuk-tuks or something like that. Here you see a melon, more pineapple, beautiful fruit. And this is some type of a crassula. I couldn't identify it. More tillandsias and rhegias probably on this cliffside. And that cliffside was right over here. So they told us we only had 5 minutes to go over and take pictures of this. And of course we stretched it out to 15 minutes almost. It's hard to get those cats back into the bus.
Nels,
Yeah,
did you say when the trip was?
this was in 2018. And it was in I think it was in September. But I can't quite remember now. In the part of the coastal area in the mountains, in the valleys between the mountains, they grow rice. I was quite surprised. The water comes down from the Andes and they irrigate. They have a large production of rice. But up here you can see what it looks like around there, and you'll see some succulent trees and some cacti and some bromeliads. Now this might be a puya, but I'm not sure. Beautiful coloring. Puyas are like hectias in that they have spines that are very treacherous. On this, I have no idea what it is. But it's a really nice looking flower. Okay, here's those things. I forgot what they call them, but they're taxis, and they've been built onto these what do you call them? These things here, onto motorcycles, or on other types of like lambrettas and stuff like that. This is getting near to Cusco, and this is one of the ruins of one of the Inca cities. And I believe that Cusco is down in the valley there. As you can see, there's a pine tree. We're at an elevation of, well, Cusco is an elevation, I think, of 11,000 feet. So up here might be even 12,000. And this is probably another puya. And then on the train going from Cusco to Machu Picchu, I saw these, I don't know what they are, Vrijas maybe, along the railroad track.
Yeah, it looked like Vesuvius.
Yeah. This, I think, might be an Espostoa or a Weber-Bauer Osiris. I'm not sure. It could be Espostoa lanata. And then you see a tree here that could even be a mesquite, because I know they do have the mesquite all the way down in Argentina, so they must have some in Peru as well.
Nels,
Yeah.
on the cactus,
Uh-huh.
I'll use my technical term, the fuzzy stuff was only on one side.
Yeah. That's just like I showed you the picture of the mellow cactus. That's the with the blooming structure, the cephalium. Well,
Oh, okay.
this is also a blooming structure. It only blooms on this side in this wool. Very interesting. So this is a typical view of the interior of Peru, where you have mountain range valley, mountain range valley. And here you have, I think it's a puya, but I'm not sure if it's a puya or a deuteraconia. And then this here is a peperomia columella. It has these little slits right here in the leaves that allow light to get in, and so that the plant can perform, what do you call it?
Cam?
Photosynthesis.
Photosynthesis.
Yeah. And then here you see the bloom. Once again, the bloom is nothing to write home about.
But it's a
But you
cam
can,
plant.
a cam plant, yeah. So you can see here that in the rainy season, this must be full of moss. It turns green. But we were in there in the dry season.
Pretty sure it's a deuteraconia.
Oh, really? Okay. This is a vermilion flycatcher, which is a species that's found all the way up into Mexico and possibly even to southern Arizona. I saw one in southern Argentina one time also. Okay, this is the Huascaran National Park. It says welcome. And here we're, I think, about 12,000 feet. And here this mountain here is covered with snow. It's probably 16 or 17,000 feet. And these are Peruvian geese. There's that mountain. And do you have any idea what's up there? That's why we came to this park.
Puya, giant puya.
Puya Raimondii. There you have them. And they could go 25 feet tall. They're just enormous. It takes them forever to bloom, and they're very, very spectacular. I would call that a national treasure of Peru. Those are some teenagers and then some adults with the blooming stalks.
I was going to ask, do you have any idea how old they are?
They're probably at least 60 years old, I'd say. And here you see a hummingbird going into the flowers. Here you see the individual flowers. Whereas before here you couldn't see much of the flower, but they're arranged like that.
I think in the habitat they take 80 to 100 years to bloom.
Aha. See how spectacular they are when you're close up? Just amazing. It feels like a place that you don't want to leave for a long time. You want to just linger there for several hours. And of course they do have nectar.
Will they grow here?
That I don't know.
Yeah, sure. In fact, I think there's one at UC Berkeley.
Oh, they have one there?
How tall are they?
About 30 feet tall
Without the bloom?
when they're in full bloom.
Okay.
So that's the location. I think there are about 15 different spots where they grow. And I don't know if they grow in Bolivia at all, but, and they're not right close to each other. They might be like 15 miles apart or 20 miles apart, the locations. Then Peru, along with Bolivia, has a large American Indian population. Bolivia has probably 55 or 60%. Peru probably has 30 to 40%. And there are a lot of different groups, but the two main languages are Quechua and Aymara. Aymara is in the south around Lake Titicaca, and Quechua is in the north. And they told me that that each village or each area, maybe, I don't know, 10 square miles or so, the ladies wear a different type of hat, and you can tell just by looking at their hat where they're from. Of course, I'm not from Peru, so I don't know, but I thought that was interesting. And apparently those hats were only adopted a couple of 100 years ago. I thought this was an interesting picture for the contrast between the youth and then the older generation. Here are some tillandsias. This is in the Machu Picchu region. And some puyas. Does anyone know what tillandsia this is?
Sure look familiar, but
Very pretty. Up here is a small columnar
that's
cactus.
a puya, right?
I think this is probably a tillandsia as well. It's one of those ones that that starts growing out of its inflorescence. There's another one that we have here that's very common. I have one. I can't remember the species name.
Secunda.
No, there's another one as well.
Is it Tectorum? Oh, sorry.
No, it's different.
There's a latifolia that does that.
Oh yeah, see here, look how it's growing out of its inflorescence.
Yeah, that's viviparous. It's a latifolia of some kind.
Yeah, viviparous. I don't know the species, but he's very alert.
Nels. Oops, sorry.
This, I think this is latifolia that just grows on the sand right along the coast. Is that right, Barry, that they do that?
Yeah, that's it. It could also be purpurea, but most likely. I'm sorry. Because of my phone reception. I'm in a terrible lag. I'm only seeing images like 30 seconds after you change them.
Oh,
I see it now. That's definitely the
latifolia. That's just covered. That's the bloom stalk. They sure don't get very much water. Right by the coast, it only rains probably 5 inches a year.
Don't they get fog?
They do get fog, yeah.
most of them live completely off of fog.
Yeah. And Lima is almost like June bloom all year long.
That's really nice.
Good for gardening. So here you see the coastal highway. This is the Pan American Highway going from Ecuador, Peru, down to Chile. And no vegetation hardly, huh? That's the coast. Coming into Lima. And someone made a garden, a vertical garden. So then after we left Lima, we went down to these islands that are near the Nazca Plains, near Ica, and they're called Peru's Galapagos. But they're much smaller. There's maybe 6 little islands. So we see pelicans and blue-footed boobies, all sorts of interesting things. Even have penguins there. Looks like some type of a cormorant. Very pretty. There you see all the birds. And then we went inland, started heading towards Cusco, and see some llamas and alpacas. This I think is a vicuña, but I'm not sure.
These are wild, or are they
Yeah, they're
domesticated?
wild. Yeah. And here's a condor, El Condor Pasa, Andean condor. We came to this place where these land snails were all over these bushes. They looked like they'd been bleached out, but they were alive. Here's a puya. And what's the name of this? This tillandsia is also found in Bolivia and Argentina.
Brioides.
Brioides, right? Yeah, very cute.
I love them.
The inflorescence is almost straw-like. You barely even see a flower. It's minuscule. And this was on a cactus. This is a cactus body here, one of the columnar cactus.
Might have been updated to be called minutifolia, but I'm not sure. Doradii.
Here you can see the blooms.
definitely incredible Doradia.
And more brioides or a different one?
No, that's it. With tricholepsis, the leaves would be curved out more.
Hmm. Puya leaves. I hope they're not doing that now under coronavirus. We were there, as I said, the president had been recently elected, so there were a lot of campaign material or actually painted on houses. There's one party here and another party here. It was interesting to see. I studied Latin American history and politics, so I enjoyed seeing that. This is grass that they sell. Do you know what they sell it for? Anybody have any idea? It's to feed the guinea pigs, because in Peru and in Bolivia and Ecuador, they eat guinea pigs. They raise them at home, and they get by this grass at the local market, outdoor market. Here's a, looks like a bag of rice. An older couple walking along. These decorations are just fantastic. I enjoy going on plant trips, not just for the plants, but for the cultural experience as well. This was the line at Aguas Calientes, which is the place where you get the buses. The train stops, and the buses take you up to Machu Picchu on a very winding road. At the line, we got there very early, and the Guillermo said, "You know, next time I'm not going to get there that early, because what's the use of waiting in line there for an hour? You could arrive there at 10:30 or so to 11 o'clock, and you still would have many, many hours to go walk around. You don't have to wait in these long lines." So this is a brugmansia. You see brugmansias. I saw them in Ecuador in the mountains, and all different colors, rose-colored, pink, orange, white, apricot, just fabulous, and they smell at night deliciously.
The latest update on those in the trade is they have variegated leaf ones. They're very expensive.
Oh, really? Really? Huh. This, I think, I'm not totally sure, but I think it's Tillandsia fendleri. I was
Right.
trying to look it up, and these things are all over at Aguas Calientes. Incredible. Growing everywhere. Well, here I am at Machu Picchu, and it's a beautiful place, but it's become, to me, it's become overly popular, and I was hoping to have some kind of a spiritual experience there, which that didn't exist, because just bumping into people right and left. It's spectacular, and it's worth a visit, but I was not happy with so many people there.
Nels, I
Yeah.
was told to, if you go to Machu Picchu, to stay at the hotel up there, then you're there before everybody else. Of course, it's really expensive.
Yeah, well, I'm going to sacrifice, and we'll do that next time. Look at this little bromeliad out on the rocks there by itself.
Looks like an Alcantara to me.
Yeah. When it wakes up every morning, look at the view it has. This is that famous rock that they just stopped allowing people to climb up it. I think just last year or two. Here's some puyas in the foreground. And what would this be, Evresia?
No, I think it's Tillandsia densa spica, or I'm not sure.
Very
Pretty
interesting.
sure it's a tillandsia.
Uh-huh. So there's the obligatory view of Machu Picchu. It's a very spectacular sight. And by looking at it, you'd think there were no people there, really, but it was crowded. Really, really beautiful. Here you have some bromeliads with some orchids and other things growing on a tree. And what about this? Do they have ecmias there?
Interesting question. It is. It is.
Think if you could have that as a landscape plant in your garden. It's spectacular.
Could that be a tillandsia?
That I don't know. Here's some begonias. I was wondering if they were Begonia bracteosa. Could that be possible, Jan?
I'm not seeing the plant.
Right here's the flower and the seeds.
Yeah.
I might have another picture. Here's that bromeliad again.
Sure doesn't look like a begonia, but the flower does.
These, I think, are orchids. Okay, here you have some orchids. I believe these are orchids, and these are orchids too. Here.
Yeah.
This must be a puya.
I think so.
That one has a name tag.
Yeah, but I can't read it.
I can't either.
Yeah. That's the bloom. There's the begonia. So I don't know if that's bracteosa or not. And I don't know what this is also, but it's very interesting. That's the Urubamba River down below. And there's a trail to Machu Picchu that I think takes several hours from a certain point, I think in Aguascalientes. And a lot of people go on that. I thought this was interesting because these repeat in the mountain peaks here, these structure. There were several llamas there, llamas. And there was one that spat at a man because he was giving it a hard time. So he got all this green juice all over his clothing. See, there she is with her baby. They're kind of imposing but elegant at the same time. Probably another puya. And here's definitely a puya. And a close-up of the flowers. That's the road that goes from Aguascalientes to Machu Picchu. Oops. This might be a fern with a big leafed one. And there's two types of ferns here, I think, and a hibiscus. And I think these are those Tillandsia fendlerized. There you see them all over the mountain. Spectacular.
Yeah, I think they're Fenroy.
And this is a fuchsia. I think it's called Fuchsia corymbiflora. I think these are puyas. Here's, looks like this is an inflorescence over here. This would be a good jigsaw puzzle. Okay, so here's the town of Aguascalientes with the river going right through it. Great place to buy scarves and all sorts of things. There's a Tillandsia. And a sedum. This was in the valley. I think this was in the Sacred Valley, which is below Cusco. Oh, and then here we are back in Cusco. I thought these street signs were fantastic. They used to spell Cusco with a Z, and now they spell it with an S. This was the coca counter where you could get the hot water and you make your own coca tea, or you can get the leaves and chew on them. And this is supposed to help with the altitude sickness. And I partook of both. And I didn't have too much. I had a little bit of altitude sickness, but there was a woman there from Portugal who was in her 70s and she was having a terrible time. She was going to have to go down to a lower elevation. Cusco is around 11,000 feet. This is the first hotel that we stayed in as part of the tour. And then later when Flammarion came, we moved to another hotel, a little fancier than this one, but this one's really nice with a garden. Some of the architecture left by the Spaniards back in the 1500s, 1600s. This is Cusco. And this is the Cathedral of Cusco. And then this is another church. I can't remember why. They have so many churches there. It's just incredible. And one of the Inca leaders. There were some kids of a dance group, and they were doing some practicing. They were going to give a program later on. Look how beautiful these balconies are. It's just a very, very beautiful city. And here you see decorated in Peruvian colors. And Cusco at night, it's a great city to walk in if you can get your breath. Very lively. Look at this road here. This is going into the Sacred Valley from Cusco.
Is it hot or cool? I guess it's up, you're up high.
It's cool. It was in the around 70, wasn't it, Flo? 75? Was Cusco around 75 degrees?
Yeah.
Or was it hot? Wasn't hot, was it? It was very pleasant, yeah.
9,000, right?
It was 11,000 feet there. And then Machu Picchu is 7,500, so it's quite a bit lower. And if you're feeling winded in Cusco, when you go down to Machu Picchu, you can really feel the relief. So this is the beer you're supposed to drink in Peru, Cusqueña. Yeah, so I guess we were there in September or October, because I see the spring blooms there of the trees.
13,000 feet is the upper limit of breathing comfort.
Uh-huh.
Most commercial airlines are pressurized to be.
So here's a tillandsia that's growing on the rocks. And this is a solanum. Interesting because it's a vine. These are the ruins at Ollantaytambo, which is about 3/4 of the way to Machu Picchu. We stayed here and we spent a day walking around the ruins. They were really very interesting. And they're not as crowded as Machu Picchu. And we saw a lot of interesting plants there. This is a echeveria, I believe, that grows on the roofs and along the. Here you see two types of tillandsias right here. This almost looks like usinioides. And here's the flowers of this one.
Was that purpurea?
You think? Could
Yeah,
be.
I don't know.
And I don't know what these are, but yeah.
Sorry.
What do you think these are? Very interesting color. You think it's a tillandsia?
Oh, yeah. I'm just not sure which.
Beautiful pinkish color. And then these are puyas, of course.
They had teeth on the edge.
Yes.
Well, maybe I must be on a shot behind you because what I'm looking at looks like a tillandsia. Sorry. Oh, that's a puya. Yeah, that's a puya for sure.
Yeah. And then these, you can see these better here. What do you think these are?
I apologize. I'm in a lag. I'm still looking at the puya.
You can see that in the rainy season, this is moss. It must be all green. I don't know what tillandsia this is.
Oh, that is, wow. Just went in and out of my head. I know what it is. I can't think.
So here's what. Aha. This is still at.
Last one was streptocarpus.
This is still in Ollantaytambo. And here you see a puya and some cacti. And then down below you see the village of Ollantaytambo and some of the ruins here, which is where you enter. And this is a bulb. I saw similar ones in northwestern Argentina, slightly different color, but it could be Certanthus family. They bloom after the leaves have died. Another puya, very colorful, with tillandsias growing all around it. More tillandsias. Right on the rocks. It's amazing. You can't bring one home. There you get a view of the ruins there, built right up against the mountain. And a better view of the town. I think our hotel, let's see here. Is the bridge, is this a hotel? That's the hotel that we stayed in. It was really, really nice. Peruvian food is fabulous. It's just incredible. I just loved it. And I think that two of the top 20 or 30 restaurants in the world are in Lima. Here's the famous rocks that you see that, and you hear about the way that they carve them so that they stick together and you can't even fit a knife in there. But look how they put these grooves so that they don't move. Now this lady, they told me what village she was from. I don't know if she was exactly from Ollantaytambo, but in that area. And they said yes, because she's wearing that type of hat. It's very unusual that she would wear the hat. It's more like a decoration, isn't it? Here's one of the restaurants where the tourists go. Okay, have any idea what this is? Can you see any people here?
Wow.
Climbing? This is a hotel. It's Pod Hotel. And you have to get there by climbing. It's the only way you can get up there.
That's my kind of hotel.
So you see the people climbing past the bromeliads? To get there, you have to follow this wire rope
You
all
can't
the
have a
way
lot
up.
of, you can't have a lot of baggage.
No, you can't.
Do,
So
do
that's
they
You
a
have
have
someone
focus.
else
helicopters
take
to
it
take
up.
you to
Yeah.
Yeah,
helicopters
so
to take you to the hospital?
yeah. This might be the registration area.
How long does it take roughly to get up there?
Probably 2 hours, I would think.
Oh, goodness.
Yeah. I guess you could be dropped off there by helicopter and go down. I don't know if they allow that, but anyway, it's very unique, and that's one place I'll never stay at.
It looks
Maybe these-
luxurious.
It probably is once you get there. Here's some tillandsias down here, up here. I mean, yeah. Of course, they're not looking at any of the plants, I don't think.
It's better that you're not
I don't know what that is. Yeah, it's good if you're not a sleepwalker if you go there.
I've been known
incredible?
to sleepwalk.
Uh-oh. So this is just in the region of Ollantaytambo. One of the hawks and the geese. Our driver, we got a driver for $40 for the day, and he drove us around, took us to the zoo. That's the Andean condor. Close up.
He's got a hat too.
Yeah. Here's more of that fuchsia.
I used to have that.
Did you? And this is
I had a bunch of them.
There's another fuchsia that's similar to that, called Boliviana. This is an echeveria native to Peru. And they're discovering new echeverias in Peru and Bolivia in the last 10 years. It's amazing. This is a monstrous cactus. This might be peyote. Oh, and this is that flower. I think it's the national flower of Chile. I forgot the name of it now. Very pretty. So we visited in this little town in the Sacred Valley. We visited this fellow's small botanical garden. Here you see the tree tomatoes, the tamarillos growing. And here is a passion flower.
Do the tree tomatoes taste like regular tomatoes?
A little bit more acidic, I think.
I would say no.
Yeah, I don't think they don't
Not
taste
at
much.
all.
This is another Brugmansia. See how beautiful the coloration is? This guy really went all out for the Andean dress. They have all different kinds of potatoes. I think they have 2,000 varieties of potatoes and who knows how many types of corn there. It's amazing. Everybody goes by all the tourist places too. A lot of textiles that are just gorgeous. And some peperomias that were being sold in an outdoor market. This is a kalanchoe, florist's kalanchoe. Here you see some tunas, some prickly pear fruit. And I think these are loquats over here. And these are a relative of the potato. I forgot the name of them, oca or something like that.
Yeah, I saw some star fruit in there too,
Oh, you did?
in the back.
So back to Cusco. There are several people that are Indians, and they hang out in certain areas of Cusco with either llamas or lambs and stuff, and you pay them to take their picture. I love blue. Happy to see a blue door. Oh, this is the train that we took to Lake Titicaca, and it was mostly Americans and Europeans.
That's a nice train.
Beautiful. Here's some puyas growing alongside the railroad track. Look how old these things must be. Probably 50, 60 years old at least. Still using the old-fashioned ways. So here you see some tillandsias, and then these, I don't know if these are tillandsias as well. At least two types here. Here's the inflorescence. This thing is just covered with tillandsias. Saying goodbye to the train. They have flamingos in Peru. Here you still see the snow up above here. I think these are puyas also. Here's some llamas and flamingos by the river. And these are those geese that you saw earlier. And here's a map of Lake Titicaca. Here's Peru. And then this is Bolivia. And the train came to Puno right here from Cusco, which is up here. Came to Puno. It's an 8-hour train trip. And then we stayed there and we took a boat out onto one of these islands. So here's Lake Titicaca, the edge of it. And this is a canal that they made through the reeds so they could have better transportation. Here's a boat and there's another boat. And we went that way too. Here he is collecting reeds. They make boats out of reeds. And they make islands out of reeds, floating islands.
Doesn't Titicaca have one of the largest species of frogs in the world?
Gee, I didn't know that.
Yeah, I think so.
They sang a song.
Sorry, what's the altitude at Titicaca?
I think it's also around 10,000 feet.
Okay, thank you.
There's a lot of symbolism there, like these arches and then this cross-like thing here. I don't understand it, but I noticed that there's a lot of iconography that they use there, like this. I don't know if it's supposed to be a god or the sun or a person or other deity. So then we came back to Lima, and this is the old hotel. I think it's called the Grand Hotel, and we stayed here, and it's very, very pretty inside. And then this is the Lima Cathedral at night. And that's the City Hall building at night. It's one big, huge plaza. There you see the flag of Peru, and that's the end of the program. So, stop share.
Yeah.